I'm Doug from Global West, and in this video we're going to talk about 1964 through 77 A-body rear suspension components. And one of the components we're going to talk about is this bearing kit that we make that fits in the differential ears up at the top here where your rubber bushings are normally, okay? Now, one of the things we do here is we want to make sure that this differential is allowed to articulate properly. And that's so it goes over bumps properly, and when you go around turns it's allowed to move, okay? And rubber bushings will allow a lot of that movement, but it doesn't allow the full spectrum. And it's a rising rate because as rubber moves, it also starts to bind up. Other components out there will not allow that action to take place. So like for example, if we were running an aluminum bushing up there, it's not going to allow that action to take place. Or if we were running into a polyurethane, for example, that action is not going to take place because polyurethane doesn't like to do this as well. So in order for us to generate the proper bushing in this particular area, we had to go to a bearing system. The bearing system looks like this. It's a spherical bearing. It's a high misalignment, okay? And we've designed a housing that'll take the place of the rubber bushing. And let me flip this up here for you. And I'm going to show you why all this is required in order to make that work. Okay? So you can see this right here. You take the rubber bushing out, and in this particular area, this housing, it's got a step on it. It's going to press into the housing like so. And it's already going to be shipped to you assembled, by the way. The bearing is already going to be installed. This slides in. We have a retaining ring that just literally threads on. And you're going to adjust that down until it gets tight. In the kit, we're going to give you a spanner wrench. So you use the spanner wrench to tighten it down. And then there's a couple of set screws on the retaining ring here. And you'll just tighten those down, and that locks everything in place. So nothing's going to shift. And then we have the spacers that go on each side of the bearing. So at the end of the day, it pretty much looks like this, okay? And the arm slides down. This will actually work even with a stock upper control arm. This dimension is set up for stock dimensions, okay? So actually any control arm that is designed to go to your application, this will fit. So the overall dimension here is 2" 400 thousandths, which is what a stock pin would be for your application. Now let me show you why we want to run a bearing system in it. Now on these particular control arms that we have, these are our arms of course, and we make them adjustable, and we'll talk about those in a different video. But this allows everything to pivot. See all that movement that's there? Now the bearing's not deflected or anything, it's just allowing the pitch. So that means that the differential is going to be able to do this without having any resistance, which is something that we want. Not to mention there isn't any deflection either. So everything is maintained. These upper control arms, because of their angles, when they are, what they do is they control lateral movement. And when you go over a bump, even in a straight ahead position, like you're driving straight and you go over who knows what, and the differential kicks, this doesn't go just straight up and down, it actually tilts. So you can understand why we would have to have a bearing system in here to allow us to do that. The part number for this is an SP47. The SP47 will fit from 64 through 77, 10 and 12 bolts. Something you need to know about the 64 though. In 1964, some of the differentials had a smaller bushing in this particular area. So you need to measure that and see what dimension you have, especially if it's a 64. And you may have to go with something a little bit different. We make them for the larger diameter, which is most common, and like I say, 65 through 77, but some 64s we were still able to do that, okay? They still had the larger dimension. So we need to take a look. You need to see what's going on there. And if you have a Mosier end, we are building them for Mosier ends now, and that's an SP47M. Mosier's changed the width here a little bit. It accepts a stock bushing, but when we go to something like this, we have to make it a little bit different so it'll work. So the reason why you want to do this, or why we're doing this, is to free that differential up, and you're going to be able to use it in several applications. street, drag, road race, autocross. It works in all camps. It's a nice way to go when you're running a lot of horsepower. And we'll talk about the control arms and what the aspects we do with those in our upcoming videos.